My friend, you need to listen to this very carefully, because the soap opera we'd been following just got a chapter nobody had the nerve to predict. A player who spent the last few years wearing the Eagles jersey, an absolute star of the offense, a guy who helped Philadelphia lift a trophy, finally left this offseason. And plenty of people in Philadelphia breathed a sigh of relief when he walked out the door, even without admitting it out loud. Well, barely a few days into his new team's training camp, and guess what happened? Exactly what everyone feared. The same complaint, the same drama, the same soap opera starting over from scratch, only now in a different locker room, hundreds of miles away. And the most striking part is that this time he didn't even wait for a game to happen before he started throwing fuel on the fire. It took 2 days. 2 days, my friend, for the script to repeat itself in an almost frightening way. The truth is that this story says a lot more about the Eagles' recent past than most fans are willing to admit, and it helps explain decisions Philadelphia made behind closed doors. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because understanding this episode is understanding why the front office did what it did, and why the locker room might be lighter today than it was a few months ago. Let me show you exactly what went down, and why it confirms everything people were saying behind the scenes. Let's go straight to the point that set social media on fire. The central character in this story switched teams this offseason, landing on a roster coming off a surprising season, a team that got close to it all and is dreaming big for next year. Arriving there, he was supposed to be the missing piece, the luxury addition, the heavyweight name that would lift the offense to another level. But instead of landing quietly and letting the work speak for him, this player made a point of opening his mouth far too early. He complained publicly, in front of everyone, that the team wasn't letting the quarterback throw the ball enough in practice. And then, when you find out this player's name, it all makes sense instantly. His name is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, now wearing the New England Patriots jersey, decided to complain about his own targets before the team had even put on full pads to practice for real. His gripe was specific. Brown said, on July 27th, that he didn't like the fact that the Patriots weren't letting the quarterback throw the ball at that moment. And here comes the ironic part, my friend. The quarterback he's talking about is none other than Drake May, a phenom who finished last season as the runner-up for the league's Most Valuable Player award, losing by a razor-thin margin to veteran Matthew Stafford. We're talking about a kid who was the 3rd overall pick of the 2024 draft and who, in just his second year as a pro, threw for more than 4,300 yards and 31 touchdowns, leading the entire league in completion percentage. In other words, Brown is complaining about one of the most exciting quarterbacks in all of the NFL. But there's a detail he seems to have completely ignored. May ended last season playing in the Super Bowl, which the Patriots lost to the Seattle Seahawks, playing hurt, with an injury to the shoulder of his throwing arm suffered right at the start of the playoffs. The smartest thing any coaching staff would do is precisely to start slow in camp, protecting the shoulder of their most precious player, and only later start letting the arm loose for longer throws. But Brown, true to his style, chose to complain first and think later. And there's an even bigger irony hidden here. That same Mike Vrabel who runs the Patriots was named Coach of the Year last season, after taking a team coming off 2 horrible campaigns and turning it into a conference finalist practically overnight. In other words, Brown is complaining about the methods of one of the most respected coaches around right now, on a team that opens the season with a Super Bowl rematch against Seattle in the very first week. That's an awful lot of rush to stir up trouble in a place that is, in fact, doing very well. And if you think it stopped there, you're mistaken. Because the complaint about targets came paired with a dose of forced humility, and it only arrived after the Patriots head coach himself, the hard-nosed Mike Vrabel, publicly chewed Brown out during a team meeting. The reason? Brown tried to make a flashy one-handed catch in practice, instead of just doing the basics and securing the ball. And it was only after Vrabel got on him that Brown, all of a sudden, started saying that he understood, that it came from a good place. The fans, of course, didn't let it slide. Social media was merciless. One account joked that it only took 2 days for A.J. Brown to start complaining about targets at Patriots camp. But the sharpest comment came from an Eagles-focused analysis, which recalled a very specific episode. Brown had already gone after coach Nick Sirianni, and had to be separated after being coached during a playoff game. And the read was surgical. Now Vrabel gets on him over a one-handed drop, and suddenly Brown understands it comes from a good place. For a lot of people, that laid the truth bare. The problem was never being held accountable. The problem, deep down, was always a question of respect, of who was doing the holding accountable. But to understand the scale of this story, we need to go back in time and look at the complicated legacy Brown left in Philadelphia. Because none of this is news to anyone who follows the Eagles closely. In his last years wearing green and white, Brown complained almost constantly about the offense, and many of those gripes were aimed precisely at the ability, or the supposed lack of it, of quarterback Jalen Hurts, the same man who was named most valuable player of the Super Bowl the Eagles won. Think about the ingratitude of that situation. In his last 2 seasons in Philadelphia, Brown complained about targets even after posting 2 straight campaigns of more than 1,000 receiving yards, and even after the team captured the title following the 2024 season. And the last image of him in an Eagles uniform is impossible to forget. A full-blown shouting match with Coach Sirianni on the sideline, during a home loss by 23-19 to San Francisco in the wild-card round, followed by several dropped balls in decisive moments of the second half. It's no accident that Philadelphia decided to trade him, shipping him to New England on June 1st in exchange for a first-round pick in 2028. And here's a delicious detail. This was the second time in his career that Brown was traded in exchange for a first-round pick. He is a giant talent, no doubt, but he carries baggage that no team seems to want to hold on to forever. And think about the symbolism of that for the Eagles. Trading a player of that caliber, and still getting a first-round pick in return, shows that Philadelphia coldly calculated that peace in the locker room was worth more than his production on the field. For a franchise that just got a taste of being champions, protecting the internal environment became a priority, and the front office clearly decided it had seen enough drama. Now, to be fair and transparent, we need to present the other side of this story, because it would be dishonest to paint Brown as nothing but a villain. First, he is, in fact, one of the most dominant receivers of his generation, and his talent on the field was never in question. Few players did as much as he did in such a short span wearing the Eagles jersey. Second, his complaint about the volume of passes actually has some merit to it, because every elite receiver wants the ball and wants to win, and that competitive hunger is also what makes him special. Third, the move to the Patriots wasn't random. New England was one of Brown's preferred destinations, in large part because of Mike Vrabel himself, a coach he had already worked with back in his Tennessee days, between 2019 and 2021, and with whom he keeps a relationship that goes beyond football. In other words, there's genuine respect there. And fourth, it has to be acknowledged that the press and social media love to amplify every word Brown says, turning a practice comment into a national soap opera. Not every drama is as big as it looks on your phone screen. But let's be honest, when the pattern repeats itself on 2 different teams, it gets hard to put the blame on the spotlight alone. So now I turn it over to you, the one who truly understands football. Looking at all of this, do you think the Eagles made the best possible deal by trading A.J. Brown for a first-round pick, or is Philadelphia going to miss his talent down the road? Do you believe Brown is a misunderstood guy, just too competitive, or that he really carries a behavior problem that follows him from locker room to locker room? And tell me one thing, how long do you bet this piece is going to last in New England before the next explosion? Drop your opinion down here in the comments, because I read every single one of them. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to follow closely everything that happens with the Eagles and with the old familiar faces who left Philadelphia. And I'll be back later to update you with the latest news.